If you're listening to this podcast, there's a good chance that you're a hunter or you just enjoy the great outdoors. Now's the time to step up. There have been countless efforts to vilify hunters, denounce the legitimacy of the science-based wildlife management model. There's no science to this stance, and it is solely emotionally charged. We don't want to see what happened with the grizzly hunt replay itself again with the remaining large carnivores and big game species. It's a slippery slope, folks. We need to stand together. Now is the time for hunters to be united across all organizations and show our combined support. Please go to wildsheepsociety.com/act now and follow the steps. It doesn't take much time, and it will help save the future of hunting. This applies to residents and non-residents alike. Please, let's use our voice and be heard. On with the show, folks. This is episode 42 of the Wilderness Locals podcast. Our guest is Baker Leavitt. Baker owns a marketing company and is the community manager for the hunting space for Black Rifle Coffee. Baker is a super knowledgeable dude and a pleasure to chat with. This podcast is brought to you by Cafardo International, the toughest hunting gear on the planet, bar none. Frontiersman gear, high quality, completely custom handmade knives made in the heart of the Peace Country. And as always, we're brought to you by Just Shooting Arrows, BC's premier archery shop.
Where's home for you?
I'm now in the Fraser Valley in BC. So I grew up like an hour out of Vancouver.
Yeah, because you sound really Canadian.
Do I?
Absolutely.
I normally get the "you don't sound Canadian at all," and then
I would say I've never had a conversation with a person that sounded more Canadian than you.
I love it.
The most Canadian person I've ever spoken to.
Really?
Oh yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
funny. Most of my family is American.
Really?
Yeah.
So you live up in BC?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm about 2 hours out of Vancouver.
You just said about. Like,
yeah, I know.
It's about.
Yeah.
So you went bear hunting recently, right?
Yeah, I mean it's bear season here right now, so we've been in the woods all the time. Like where I live now, I'm 5 minutes from a dirt road, right?
Okay.
But yeah, man.
They don't allow hunting bear over bait up there, do they?
No, in BC, no bait. Alberta, you can bait. So, yeah, no, it's all like spot and stalk or kind of ambush hunting.
Have you seen any?
Oh yeah, I see bears all the time, man.
Yeah, that's the one thing I've not had any success with is black bear. Believe it or not, like I've shot a bunch of elk and all kinds of stuff and hunted all over the world on 4 continents, and the one critter I don't have under my belt is the black bear.
Really, eh?
Yeah, no, and most people have that same reaction. They're like, wait a minute, what? Like I've shot elk with a bow. I shot 4 elk with a bow, 1 with a rifle, and no black bears.
Wow. Well, I mean, I think that's an easy one to cross off your list, right?
Everyone says that too. Like they all say the same thing. They're like, yeah, that should be easy to get done. It shouldn't be complicated.
Yeah.
But everyone's got their little thing that they just have had bad luck with. And for me, it's black bears.
Yeah. I mean, like a lot of the Western states, I mean, black bears are over the counter, aren't they? Oh yeah. And I think you can hunt. I mean, it still blows my mind when you look at the, like how in the US states, you guys can just hop around state to state for the most part. Right. And I mean, I know residents do get some preference, but like we can't do that in Canada.
Really?
No. Like when I hunt Alberta, I'm super fortunate because one of my closest friends hosts me there.
Right.
And you have to have a host when you hunt in Alberta, and he can host 2 guys a year. Right. And then in BC, he hunts with me. So I host him. I'm allowed to host 1 person a year, and he can hunt anything except sheep when he's with me. And we have to apply for like the dates, the species, the unit. Like we have to lay it all out for the government ahead of time.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. It's quite strict up here with who's allowed to hunt. I mean, with residents, you know, same as anywhere, go for it. But yeah, for non-residents, it's tough. And then like non-resident aliens for like Americans in Canada, it's even tougher.
Yeah, that the border is, I think, still closed, isn't it?
Oh yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, I've read some crazy stuff and seen some crazy stuff like coming out of Canada. Like people, you know, can get pulled over now just to ask why they're out and about, where they're going, and just randomness. Which that shit wouldn't fly down here. I mean, No, I mean we would. I mean that's how you get in rolling gun battles with cops. Like people that would not be tolerated in the States. So what all do you hunt up in Canada, in BC? Like in the past year?
I mean everything. That's the thing about BC that's so cool, right? I mean, this coming season, so like out of the gate, we have a mountain goat hunt. Middle of August, we're doing archery goat hunt. If we finish that in a reasonable time, we'll head a little further north and go hunt stone sheep.
So what's entailed for you going to hunt stone sheep?
Nothing. $40.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's cool, right? And then coming back down in September, I'll probably burn a couple days here on the coast hunting blacktail. Blacktail are super fun to hunt in velvet. And I don't know if you've hunted blacktail much. They're like,
I have not.
They're a pain in the ass, man. They live in such thick like coastal jungle, and they're a pain in the ass, but they're super cool. They're hard to kill. Not a ton of guys kill them, and if you can get them figured out, they're fun. If you can't get them figured out, it's a nightmare.
I heard that they're easiest to hunt when the weather's nastiest.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, man. If it's like pouring rain, you'll have a little more success. I think it's probably just because it conceals your scent and your sound, and that maybe the visuals are a little worse for them. Probably helps that way, right?
Yeah, I heard when bad weather, they tend to be a little bit more out in the open, so they can hear and see. Versus like in the thick stuff when the wind's howling, you know, they can't hear a predator sneaking up on them.
Yeah. I mean, like in the open, you kind of have to say that in air quotes, though. Here in BC, like on the coast of BC, like, I mean, in the open where I hunt blacktail is like 80 yards, you know?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's thick. It's real thick. Then from there, we'll do like an alpine muley hunt. That'll still be an archery season, like September, you know, like 5th to 10th. We'll do that. We have a pretty cool hunt plan there. Try to kill a muley in velvet. Then from there, we kind of shift gears right into elk. We have 2 species of elk in BC. We have Rosies and Rockies. Rosies are on draw. Rockies are over the counter.
What's the first one you said? Roosevelt.
Yeah, Roosevelt.
Okay, yeah, okay, all right. I didn't understand you. So you guys have Roosevelts and Rockies in BC?
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Yeah, it's cool. And then I think we'll probably head up north after our elk hunt for moose. We could like BC. You can hunt everything. There's pretty well. I think the only thing that's not in BC is pronghorn.
Really?
Yeah.
You guys get whitetail up there?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Do you hunt those much?
Me, I've only ever killed one whitetail because like kind of where they're good to hunt is across the province from me. There are whitetail nearby, but there's not seasons for them where they are close to me.
Oh, so the population's low?
Yeah, on the West Coast the population's super low, but when you start heading east and northeast, you start running into them.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
that's primarily what I hunt is whitetail.
So let's get into that. I mean, let's tell everybody who you are and what you do to start with.
So my name is Baker Leavitt. I own a marketing company called Digital Mongoose. I run social media and marketing for about 24 different companies. And then I am I work for Black Rifle Coffee. I would be the community manager for the hunting space for Black Rifle. I hunt as much as possible in the fall. I do at least one elk hunt out. I live in Florida, so I do at least one elk hunt out west every year. And then lots and lots of whitetail hunting too. So like this year I hunted elk in New Mexico, got an old 6x6, cool. Really old. And then I hunted whitetails in Georgia where the farm is. Got a couple nice bucks there. And then also hunted whitetails in got a nice 10-pointer in Texas, nice axis buck, which I just got my taxidermy bill on, and the guy is charging me $300 for a Euro mount for an axis and $300 for a Euro mount for a whitetail. And it's like, when did Euro mounts become so damn expensive? Like, holy shit. The axis hide is only $200 though. You think about it, there's no one on this planet that's going to tell me it's harder to Euro mount a skull than it is to tan a hide. Like, I don't care. I mean, that's absurd, right? I mean, and then I turkey hunt a lot as well. So normally every year I try to hunt turkeys in 2 new states that I have not hunted before. And that's normally not a problem. Sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 4 states. But this past year I only hunted turkeys I hunted turkeys for the first time in Florida. So I just moved here like a year or so ago.
Oh, cool.
So I hunted turkeys in Florida, Osceolas, and then got a nice Rio out in Texas, and then up at the farm in Georgia, which is where we have eastern birds. So, and then we fish a lot too. And then also we do a lot of scalloping. So our scallop season starts in 16 days, I'm counting down the days now. So, which I can't wait. That's probably one of my favorite things in the world to do is scalloping. Like we went for the first time, and then 6 days later, like we bought a boat, and then, we bought a house over there, in February.
Is that kind of what brought you down to Florida?
My girlfriend did, Melissa.
Nice.
So she's actually over there near the printer. I think she can hear us.
Yeah.
She's probably smiling.
Nice.
She is smiling. But so we live on the Atlantic coast in a town called Ormond Beach. And then we have a house in Steenhatchee, which is on the Gulf side up on the bend of Florida, where they're just south of the Panhandle where it starts to turn south. So we have a house over there too. And so that's where we do a lot of fishing and scalloping. And then we're going over to Bradenton on Tuesday. We're tarpon fishing on Wednesday. And then we doing an interview with the Coastal Conservation Association on Thursday. I think that's the date. So,
very cool.
And then we've got lobster season in Florida, which we're going down in July the 28th and 29th. And then I'll be doing some offshore fishing down in Costa Rica the week prior to that. So stay busy.
That's cool, fishing, man.
Yeah, started fishing since I moved to Florida. I've started fishing a lot more than I used to. So like I went through a phase where all I did was hunt and very little, or I fished a ton and hunted a little. And then, I started hunting way, way more than I fished, and lived in a place, lived in Washington State, just south of you. I lived in Mill Creek, Washington, which is just north. I lived there for 7 years. So
it's a good spot.
Duck hunted a lot when I lived out there. I didn't fish there because Pacific Northwest fishing doesn't interest me. And then, started doing a lot of fishing since I moved to Florida, and having a blast with it.
Right on. And you grew up in Georgia, is that right?
I grew up in Savannah, Georgia, born and raised. Grew up, and then I went to University of Georgia, And then later in life, I went to NYU for graduate school.
Wicked. Yeah. I listened to that podcast when you were on Eastman's Elevated there with Brian. And I would urge everybody to go listen to that podcast. It was excellent, man. I really enjoyed that. And normally on these things, I get the who are you, what do you do, and how did you get started? But that how did you get started story is like an hour and a half long, and it's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's weird. Like I just started kind of talking about like. When I started hunting, so I'm 45 years old. So I started hunting my sophomore year of high school. I went to a boarding school for basically it was like world-class soccer program.
Cool.
Called Florida Air Academy. It's in Melbourne, Florida. And I was down there all freshman year and sophomore year, but I was home for a break my sophomore year. And I just remember driving out to our farm. My everyone lives in Savannah, Georgia, but they're from originally a small town about 72 miles north called Sylvania, Georgia. And we still have a couple farms up there. It's just like a hobby farm, just have some land and cows and stuff. And I just remember I was like, well, I want to be a hunter. And I wanted to do that because it was kind of a macho thing to do. And like, as I would describe myself, like I'm a masculine man, like I'm a dude, like, and I was like, I need to be doing this because it's cool. And so I just remember like every time I hunted from the time I was 16 until probably like whitetail hunting till like 16 to like probably 25, I hated it, man. I hated sitting in deer stands. Like I truly despised it. And it's just, this was before cell phones and all that stuff. And it just sucked ass, just sitting there in silence. I couldn't stand it. But then, the older I get and the more mature I get, like the more I actually now I love it, just sitting there and it's quiet and there's really no distractions. And
I think mature is probably debatable. I follow your Instagram.
Yes, that's wiser. The wiser, the busier life becomes. Life gets busy. But dude, I love it now. Like, but when I first started, man, I did it out of a sense of obligation. Truly,
really.
A lot of guys want to do that, but like, yeah, I hated it. Wow. Couldn't stand it. It sucked. Like, just fidgety and bored as hell, and didn't want to get up early. Once
like
you, yeah. Now it's like, if I sleep past 7, that's crazy. I don't normally wake up between 5 and 6.
Once you killed like your first good buck, was it like game on? Did the needle get sunk into the vein, so to speak? Like,
no,
did it change?
No, not really. No, it was never that. It's like, it was more along the lines of like, so when I was in high school and college, like that's before trail cams. All right. Okay. Generally speaking, that was before trail cams and all that stuff. And like, no one knew shit, man. Like I've never, until I was an adult, like played the wind. We just go get in a stand. I have no recollection of thinking or considering or looking at the wind direction. Until like maybe 10 years ago. Like we would just go get in the stand. Yeah, it would scent, worrying about scent and wind and, all that stuff. Like, no, you just throw out corn, that was really it, like that was the strategy. And, but with the evolution of hunting and trail cams and trophy management and whitetail science and quality deer management programs, they've come a long way. Oh, yeah. And not all for good. Like there's a lot of, with the whole trophy hunting movement and the advancements and all that stuff, like one thing that's unfortunate is there's no pride in the harvesting of meat. Now it's got to be a trophy buck with your bow or it doesn't count, which I think is complete nonsense. And when I hear people talk that way, I absolutely will check them. But, So with the advancements in technology and stuff, whitetail hunting became a science. And I was having this conversation with my buddy Jeremy Starks yesterday. Jeremy's a wildlife biologist. He's from West Virginia. And, we were talking about whitetail hunting is a 365 day a year obsession, because you can have an impact on your deer herd by doing things in the off season correctly, like, food plots, planting the right food plots, supplementing their diet with corn and protein, things of that nature, predator control. Those are things that you guys out west cannot do. Like, you can't go out and have any impact on your overall herd health.
Yeah.
So like, you guys can't, you can go hiking and shed hunting, but you can't do anything to have a positive impact on the deer herd other than, maybe shooting a couple coyotes here and there. But generally speaking, with predator control, like, you have to be on top of it and absolutely have to get after it. So, like, I'll give you an example. So right now in the South, whitetail does are pregnant and about to start dropping their fawns. And your bucks, their horns are starting to regrow. All right. Their diet is 95% forbs right now. Forbs are soft leaf herbaceous plants. A forb is basically 90% water and a little bit of potassium. So what happens is your bucks and does that are pregnant are running around eating, herbaceous leafy plants and basically walking around in a sodium deficient state because it's all water and it just flushes all the nutrients out of their body. Okay. So, like, imagine if all you did was just sit around and chug water all day.
Yeah.
And you didn't eat any minerals or salts. Like, you're going to be in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
So you can go out and you start developing mineral sites, which basically will help with your lactating female does. So it'll improve and then also the bone structure of your deer. And you're basically having a positive impact on the health of your deer population. All right. Predator control. Shooting the hell out of coyotes, trapping, all that stuff. Massive impact on your deer population. Then you're planting food plots and you're supplementing their diets with corn and protein. Massive impact on your herd health.
Oh yeah.
So it's a 365 day obsession versus Western hunting. So, how did I get on that topic?
We were talking about how you grew up on whitetail in Georgia there, and how far whitetail hunting has come since the days of throwing out corn and hopping in the stand.
Yeah, so you can do. There's a lot you can do in the off season, and it really starts when the season ends. That's when your off season begins. Versus Western hunters, there's nothing they're allowed to do to impact their deer herd health.
Yeah, there's man, I wish one of my partners on here was on this podcast, Wasey. He has some phenomenal Alberta whitetail country that him and his old man have been managing for the better part of 40 years now. But out west, you're totally right. Like, with our migratory deer herds and elk herds and stuff like that, there's not a ton that you can do to help them out over the winter. But like, we were just talking about blacktail earlier, and like my blacktail herds that I hunt here, they're resident. They don't move. So I do a little bit of what you're talking about here on our crown land, which is like the same as like block management or public land in the US. Yeah, and so like with my blacktail here, like, through the winter, we make sure there's salt down and we make sure there's, good cover and all that kind of stuff. And it truly helps. And like, with you talking about managing predators, like we try to kill as many predators as we can. And like, if I notice like, one of the 4 or 5 blacktail herds that I keep tabs on. If I notice that the fawn recruitment is really crappy, I'll focus my energy on hunting bears in that area the following year.
So that's you basically, Western hunters, they can try to have an impact if they notice something's off.
Oh,
but
yeah.
In the South, it's constant. Like your hogs, wild pigs, shoot them on sight. Just put a bullet in them. It doesn't matter where you hit them. Just get them out of there.
That's wild.
They will destroy your property. They will destroy everything. And then coyotes, the thing with coyotes, like coyotes are probably one of the most adaptive species in North America. Mm-hmm. The U.S. government has spent, I think, somewhere north of $100 million trying to eradicate them. And all we've done is drive them to colonize in all of the lower 48 states.
Yeah. I think they say the coyote has, it is second in distribution only to like the common rat, right?
Yeah. So coyotes have a thing known as fission fusion. And fission fusion, there's 17 organisms on this planet that have fission fusion. And that's the ability to survive individually and thrive individually as a pair or in a pack or a group. Coyotes are fall into that category. And like there's a saying, like if you want to increase your coyote population by 20, go kill 10.
Yeah.
So if people, by going out and shooting like 1 or 2 coyotes a year, that has absolutely no impact on anything. In fact, it makes it worse. So when you hear coyotes sounding at night, that's a census.
Yeah.
And if that number comes back low or different than the night before or the last time they did that, pregnant females that aren't pregnant, it'll send them into heat.
Yeah.
And then ones that are pregnant, it will trigger a mechanism and their litter size inside of them will increase or begin to increase. Mm-hmm. So like predator management, like you have to be like psychotically aggressive to really make an impact. Like going out and shooting 1 or 2 or whatever, like that's not going to do anything.
We're going to have to do another one of these with Waste Dog on here. I mean, the guy's killed more dogs than Parvo. You'll love to talk to him.
Oh, so he gets after it.
Oh yeah, him and his dad both kill a pile of dogs every year, wolves and yotes.
Yeah, so that's another thing that like I don't really have any experience with is the whole wolf thing, like which I'm really curious about. Like, have you ever seen one? Like, how often do you see?
Yeah, we were actually talking about that. I had these 4 dudes from BC on the podcast. I haven't posted it yet, but they're all under 30 and they all took their first sheep this past season. And we were talking about predators and predator management a little bit. And out of the 5 of us that were on that podcast in BC, I think all of us had seen wolves a handful of times, and like only one of us had an actual crack with a rifle at one. So
it's like an opportunity thing. Like you just got to get lucky and see them, right?
Yeah. Or like be sitting on an area, they're in. Like guys that set their sights on wolves, they can kill them. But in BC, I mean, we have a bag limit of wolves and it's only 2 per licensed hunter in most units.
But how many people do you know that kill 2 wolves a year?
None. Other than Wasey, like none.
Okay, so like it's super rare, right?
Oh yeah.
And so, how do you hunt wolves?
I mean, guys will hunt them off calls and that kind of thing in BC here. Yeah, because we're not allowed to bait, right?
But how successful are wolf guides?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that one. I don't know anybody paying to go on wolf hunts. I know like a lot of my trapper buddies put a good dent in that wolf population.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, man, it's one of those things like when you see them with your own eyes, you're like, those aren't dogs. And they're different than coyotes for sure.
Yeah. They're much bigger, aren't they?
Oh yeah. Wolves in BC are huge too.
Like, are those timber wolves or gray wolves?
I think they're timber wolves here.
Got it.
Yeah.
Have you ever killed one?
No, I haven't. I've only ever had like maybe a few second opportunities at the wolves I've seen, you know, and it's like, it'll be like a flash of fur and you're like, oh, that was a wolf. Then you'll hear them crack off and do roll call. Right. But like when guys get into them, like you hear those stories where guys will be like, you know, on their third or fourth trip back for meat and they'll run into the wolf pack and start shooting them. Right.
Right.
Stuff like that happens, or you'll stumble into like the wolf den or whatever. Right. Where I hunt elk, we hear wolves all the time. Where I hunt elk, never seen one, never had one on cam.
A wolf.
Yeah. But I hear him.
So do you hunt? Are they in the timber? They don't. I heard they don't. Like they've adapted. I've heard they adapt super fast.
Yeah, they must, man. They must just stay in the thick stuff. And there's so much food in BC, right? Like the amount of just stuff running around in the woods here is crazy. So I mean, I don't think they have to go far to eat.
I've heard that, like, you know, they try to do them with like helicopters or planes or whatever, and like the wolves have gotten smart and like won't come out of the timber when they hear that.
So there's some cool folklore about that in northern BC when kind of a lot of those like really epic stone sheep spots were kind of getting I don't know what's the word, surveyed, right? When a lot of those places were first going in and they were flying in a helicopter, kind of, you know, putting those red X's on the map. And for many years they would go up in they'd go up in planes. I mean, because you can fly real slow in a plane, right? And they would be dumping wolves out of the planes for many years. Now, I don't know if they still do that, but they did for many years through the 50s, 60s, and 70s, right?
They would just go up there and just hammer them.
Yep.
Yeah, the whole wolf thing, like I've heard people say that, you know, like wolves have eradicated this population of animals and, you know, where they reintroduced them here, they've caused this issue and stuff. And like, I know that most people blame wolves for Idaho's declining elk populations.
Yeah.
But the thing with that is like Idaho, they got hit with like back-to-back, like big time fires, big time drought, and then the wolf reintroduction. So like they had like a perfect storm of like 3 different things happen like back-to-back years, which just, you know, just hammered their population. But, you know, I've also heard people say that, you know, like there's a big thing with like reintroducing wolves is a way to stop oil and gas pipelines from coming through. So like in I don't know why they would want to introduce wolves in Colorado.
No, me either.
I don't get it like at all. And, you know, it's like, it just doesn't make sense. So there's an ulterior motive there. Like, I think wolves are cool looking and stuff, but like, you know, I don't. Anytime decisions are made based on emotion and stuff, it's normally going to be a mistake, you know.
No, I completely agree, man. Like I often say, like when we talk grizzly all the time in BC, right? And I often say, like, I want grizzlies to exist. Like, I want to see grizzlies. I just don't want there to be a ton of them. I don't want to have to look over my shoulder all the time. Like, there's a reason that the giant man-eating monster was extirpated in much of the U.S., right? Because people wanted to live in those places. And now, I mean, the grizzly in BC is knocking on the ski resort's front door and everything else.
Yeah, and people are like, oh my God, it's a bear, so cute.
No, yeah.
Go pet it.
Oh man, where I live, down here closer to the coast, there's black bears everywhere, right? And the little community that I live in is a little hippy dippy. And they have that mindset that if we call the COs, they're just going to freaking put a bullet in the bear instead of, running it back up the mountain. So what happens is these bears all get habituated with coming down off the mountain, down through the fields and into the residential areas. And they just hang out and eat off the apple trees and stuff, eat garbage, yada, yada, yada. And then it gets to the point where it's like, okay, we don't want this bear here because we want to go in our backyard now. So they have to call the CO, and they can't run the bears far enough off anymore. So then they end up shooting them. It's like,
right. And it's anthropomorphism. It's people attaching like human characteristics to animals they grew up with watching on Disney. Walt Disney is the father of anti-hunting.
Yeah.
And if you look at when all the whole anti-hunting stuff started, is basically right around 1969 when Bambi was released.
Mm-hmm.
Like, think about Bambi. Like, how many people do you know? Like, Bambi's father and mother were shot in a forest fire because the people were hunting a forest. Like, no one hunts forest fires. Like no one's like, oh yeah, I hear there's a big fire up north. Let's go up there and shoot deer as they run out. Like, that's never happened.
Yeah,
that's never happened in the history of the world. It's
pretty sinister.
Yeah, but no one does that. You know what I mean? It's like no one's like, hey, there's a fire. Let's go over there, see if there's a deer. No. Yeah. And the whole anti-hunting thing is very, very new. I mean, it's literally like 60 years old. Like, it's not, it's like, when in the history of mankind has, someone going out and, harvesting their own food been shunned. Like, think about since the beginning. I mean, think about, let's go back to the beginning of man. Okay. Whenever that is.
Mm-hmm.
In the history, up until 50 years ago, a man bringing food home was celebrated. Now you have people that view that with disgust. And it's like, our forefathers, they wouldn't understand it. They'd be like, wait a minute, why are you upset again? What happened? Like, what? That's food. He's going to eat that,
yeah.
It's nuts, man.
Man,
it's crazy.
The thing that blows my mind, right? And again, we talk about this on the podcast all the time. And it's part of kind of what we try to do here a little bit is try to maybe have guests on that can help give people some tools to have these conversations, right? And excuse me, one of the things that freaking blows my mind is when you'll have a conversation about hunting with somebody who's a non-hunter or maybe even an anti-hunter, and they'll be like talk to you with complete disgust while they're eating their Big Mac or their chicken nuggets or whatever. And you're like,
wearing a leather belt.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, do you have any idea how ridiculous you look right now? Like,
well, it's just the hypocrisy knows no bounds. That's the real thing. Like, it's, I spend, I'm not bragging. This is just a fact. I spend as much, if not more time on social media than anyone you know. That's what I do for a living. Okay.
Yep.
And I've just become numb to it. Like, and I just ignore it. I really do. People, back in the day, you had to have earned the right to have your opinion heard.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, so like if you were going to give your opinion on sports, you probably needed to have participated in them. You know what I mean? Or spent a lifetime studying them or whatever. But now anyone that has Twitter or Facebook or Instagram can be a subject matter expert in their head, and their opinion has a right to be heard. It's like, like you listen to anti-hunters or people will criticize you. It's like, listen, I know more about whitetail deer than you will ever know.
Mm-hmm.
And I have done more and spent more money towards conservation of whitetail deer than, you'll ever do. Yet here we are on equal footing with regards to our opinions being heard. You're just screaming louder than me, so you just have to ignore it. And I call it the outrage Olympics, where people just lose their minds about shit, and so you have to ignore it because that cycle, it used to be like I call it the trauma cycle. Trauma cycle, outrage cycle on social media used to be about 72 hours. People would stay on topic, outraged and upset about something.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's less than 12 hours.
Yeah.
They'll lose their mind about something, and like a few minutes later, they'll be on to the next thing. So like people just now it's in vogue to be upset about stuff or outraged,
which is insane.
What I like to do is ask people, like, "Hey man, what were you mad about 3 days ago? I don't remember. What was it?" They're like, "Man, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't remember. I'll tell you what I'm mad about right now.
Let me tell
you
this.
You know, so people are lunatics. Man.
Oh man. We had I had Jim Shockey on here. I don't know what kind of traction Jim has in the US, but Jim's a
he's respected.
Yeah, he's a heavy hitter up here in Canada for sure. And one of the things that I'm going to ask you after I tell you about what he said, I asked him, what can we do? How can we move the needle a little bit and try to kind of give people our perspective and let them know, hey, we're not bloodthirsty killers. We're doing this for A, conservation, B, food, and C, let's be honest, we enjoy it, but there's nothing wrong with it. How do we move the needle? And Jim went on to kind of break down his perspective, right? And one of the things that really stuck out was he said, not everyone's against us. He goes, 10% of the population might be hunters, right? And then he said 10% of that of the population might be anti or, anti-hunting leaning, maybe not anti, but maybe heading that way. He goes, and then the 80% in the middle is in the middle. They're ours to lose. So it's important that we kind of put our best foot forward, right? And so I guess how I would how I would steer this conversation with you as a guy that has so much experience on social media and dealing with, people with outrage culture as it looks today. How would you move the needle? What would you do?
Well, one, some people, once they state their opinion, it's very rare that you're going to get them to change it. All right. Because they're looking for a fight. And that's the 10% that Jim Shockey's referring to. So those people can go jump in the lake. I don't care what they think. I don't.
Totally agree.
The 80% that's ours to lose, you see a lot, these people that are trying to become hunting influencers on Instagram or fishing influencers on Instagram, doing stupid stuff with animals and posing these stupid photos. Those people are too dumb to understand how it could possibly have a negative impact on what the rest of us are doing. Bow bunnies, a bow bunny is a chick that wears a thong and has, surgically enhanced, chest, and it poses half naked with a fish, or they'll take their top off and cover their nipples with a fish. It's you're not helping anything. You're not doing anything. Your self-esteem is so low that you need someone that you'll never meet to engage. And you look at the number of likes that you're getting on each post. So
you're never holding scallops over your nipples?
Absolutely not, man. Heck no. It's called chasing the dragon. All right. So chasing the dragon, what that is the person wakes up and let's say they're a drug addict and they do their heroin or crack for the first time. The rest of the day, man, they're chasing that initial high. All right. And the same goes with social media. So if you look at when Trump was elected back in 2016, he would do a tweet and people would be like, you're stupid, you're dumb, you're a moron. And then that wasn't enough. And so then they would start you're a piece of shit, or they would cuss. And then the insults got worse and worse and worse. And then it would be I hope your family gets in a car crash and everyone burns alive. So it's just in the same thing with just pay what was acceptable or was pushing the envelope yesterday was never enough for today. So they just have to get more audacious with the stuff that they do.
Yeah.
and then the same as with the hunting influencers, like wannabe hunting influencer stuff. Like there are some horrible examples on social media of hunting. And those are the things that really get kicked up a notch and pushed up, to the front of the feeds. And so you've got anti-hunters and they see these morons making these stupid posts. Another thing is like that I don't like is when hunters hide behind conservation. Mm-hmm. Conservation is a byproduct of hunting. Like for me, like I spend tons of money. The companies that I work with donate, I'm not kidding, millions of dollars a year to conservation efforts. We promote and support them on social media. We post about them. We engage, donate, make cash donations. My house in Steenhatchee, the Coastal Conservation Association, they put my house in raffles and raffle off 3-night stays in the off season. Nice. So like I'm doing my part more so than most people.
Oh yeah.
Way more than most people. But I have never walked into the woods thinking about being a conservationist.
No,
I don't. I go in to kill an animal, to kill a deer or an elk or whatever. That's why I'm there. And I think a lot of them, like you'll see a lot of these schmucks putting like conservationists, like ardent public land defender in their social media bios, and it's just like,
what does that mean?
It's like, what are you talking about? Like, there's a female. I'm not going to name her name. I should, but I'm not going to. And like, she just runs around, and she's very new to the hunting space. She has brown hair.
I know who you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
And she's just like a freeloader. Like, I'm an ardent defender of public lands. It's like, no, you're not. You're a freeloader. Mm-hmm. You literally make a living off of the hunting and outdoor space. Like, how much money did you donate to conservation last year? Running around and camping and hunting on public land doesn't make you a public land defender. Like, and that's another thing that's kind of sprung out of this whole conservation thing that just infuriates me. It's like, there's an organization based in Bozeman, Montana, and their whole thing is public lands. And they've created this locavore culture where it's so toxic to anyone that doesn't hunt on public land with a bow without an outfitter. It just doesn't count. Like, constantly criticizing high fence guys in Texas. It's like, hey man, you focus on your world and what you're doing, and don't worry about what a guy is doing to his private property in Texas. Like Stephen Ranella, who went, Jesse Griffiths, who owns Daidue, which is in Sakale, which is a
restaurant,
one of my favorite restaurants in Austin, Texas. He took Stephen Ranella hunting on a ranch in Texas. There's no fence on this property. There isn't a feeder on the property. And Stephen Ranella posted a photo of that, and there was like 1,000 comments of people losing their minds because they thought he was hunting high fence with feeders. It's like, so what if he was?
Yeah.
Like, you live in Bozeman, Montana, and you hunt public land. Good for you. Why are you criticizing and talking trash about what someone is doing to their family's property in the state of Texas? You've never been to Texas. Why do you care what they're doing there? Leave them alone. Like, I just like the whole conservation thing. Like, I think people try to use it as an apologist shield.
Yeah.
It's like, no, man, I'm going out to kill a deer.
Yeah. And I mean,
I'm not going to try to posture and pretend that I'm here for conservation efforts. No, man, that's not, I'm there to put blood on the ground. That might sound a little graphic, but like,
no, it's true though, man. That's why when I said like, yeah, we have to be honest too, that at the end of the question I said, and yeah, we like it. We have fun. It's a good time. We like to kill and eat deer. Like,
yeah, it's a challenge, man. It's fun. Like, so Black Rifle Coffee, we have a charitable giving arm. So Evan Hafer, who's the CEO and founder of Black Rifle, Black Rifle is a tremendously successful company, killing it. And Evan is a very caring, giving, sharing person. And so we have BRCC Gives, which is our charitable giving arm, which has Evan, it was funded by Black Rifle this year, like massive amount of money, like 7 figures. All right. So we're putting it would not small, man. And like, I know for a fact that we will be donating over 6 figures directly to conservation organizations within the United States. I'd be willing to bet that we've already done that this year. What is it? It's May, right? It's almost the end of May.
Yep.
We've already done that. So, but
Wicked.
one of our upcoming projects, when we are expanding into the hunting space, which is, my new job title, which would be community manager for the hunting space, is identifying conservation organizations like Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. They do a fantastic job. National Wild Turkey Federation. As far as organizations that actually have made a massive impact on the species they're looking to conserve, I think the NWTF has probably done a good a job as anybody, if not the best job.
I think that's they're the reason why turkeys exist, isn't it? Aren't they?
For the most part, man, there wasn't and I might get these numbers a little bit wrong. Yeah. In the 80s, there were not huntable populations in most states, most of the United States. Like, I think there might have been, and like I might get these numbers wrong, but I'm just, for example, like, let's say there was like 500,000 turkeys in 1975, and now there's like 17 million or something. It's substantial what they've done, and it's really impressive. Sheep Foundation, another great organization. Yep. So there's a lot of organizations out there that we support, and we'll be literally stroking checks to between now and the end of the year. So we're doing our part.
Man, I love that. That is the coolest, man. Like, having a private company like that is going out of their way, above and beyond, to source out the conservation orgs that are doing what they should be doing, which is
making a difference.
Exactly. Moving the needle. That is
who is actually making a difference, whose mission statement is being followed. Like, we're not interested in paying big corporate salaries, for like executives. Like, who's got their feet on the ground, making a difference, making an impact. That's what we're about. Man, and we've in addition to the conservation stuff, like, we have donated millions of dollars to veteran causes and 2A causes. Millions of cash, not just like a bunch of bags of coffee. We send out millions of bags of coffee to those guys, but like, it is literally, Evan Hafer has signed millions of dollars worth of checks to those organizations. So
wicked.
We do all that. We practice what we preach. We put our money where our mouth is, but that's not why I run around in the woods in the fall, and winter.
No, I'm putting my Black Rifle t-shirt on today, and I'm going to drink like 30 coffees and bang the drum.
That's a lot. Maybe not that many.
No,
maybe you might.
That would not be good. But still,
let's shy away from that.
I'm stoked to know some guys over there, and I'm stoked to hear about what people are doing, and like, it's so hard. It's so hard to sort through the bullshit with all of this conservation stuff, and like, that's one of the reasons why I'm such a big supporter of Wild Sheep Foundation and Wild Sheep Society here in BC. Is like, I know my money is getting put to good use. Like, Wild Sheep Society here in BC, they're not just about sheep. It's one of the conservation orgs that gets after it. Like, they have boots on the ground. They're doing the counts. They're doing the work. They're doing all the things they need. You know what I mean? And it's cool that there's a company like Black Rifle that a lot of us guys can look at now and go, who are they dealing with? Like what conservation orgs is Black Rifle dealing with? And, that's a vetted conservation org now. We know that those guys are doing the right thing. Maybe I should send them some money.
Right. So there's a lot of people that run around out there like, oh, I'm going to start a nonprofit.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, why? Why are you starting a nonprofit? Well, I want to make a difference. It's like, okay, well, rather than spending the time trying to start a nonprofit and getting it stood up and getting it funded so you can do what you want to do, why not be honest with yourself and take the time that you're going to spend on that and maybe go help an organization that's existing and has a purpose already, because all you're doing is diluting the overall impact. You're diluting the pool. So maybe take your time and energy and go volunteer and help an existing organization that makes a difference.
Yeah.
Like that is my advice to so many people. Like it's like, hey man, your heart's in the right place and you want to do some good. Why not go help these guys that are already making a difference? You're not going to do it better than them. They're established.
I have to I have to tell you a quick story, and you're going to shake your head the whole way through it. So in BC here, as you know, we get a lot of push from that non-hunting 10% that we were just talking about, right? The Lululemons of the world and the Ryan Reynolds and the Miley Cyrus.
Right. The greenies.
Oh, buddy. The granola munchers, big time. And so they come after us hard and fast, right? And the grizzly ban that went in, that was a 10-year battle. A lot of people don't realize that basically, I think it was 2003, there was a 3-year memorandum on the season, and they brought it back after because it was a pilot to see, so they could study the grizzly bear population to see what happened if they weren't hunted for 3 years, right? And the non-hunting side just got after it. 2008 to 2018 took them 10 years to get it banned. And when the new government came in here in BC, they went, yep, let's get rid of it. It's not socially acceptable. It doesn't fit into the social license of today. It was not based on science at all. The biologists were screaming, like, this is the most studied hunt in North America ever, like literally ever. There's no reason to close it. It should be open. They're doing a good job. You know, we're managing this population of grizzly, yada, yada, yada. Fast forward to 2020, right? And so this paper comes out from one of the like big anti-hunting orgs here in BC, and basically it calls for it was really creative. It basically frames this paper that hunters are going to lose hunting on their own because of the social license to hunt, right? It doesn't take in any management practices or anything like that. It doesn't take in how socially accepted hunting is, yada, yada, yada. And it frames it in kind of a unrealistic way, but it goes on to list how society isn't okay with the hunting of large carnivores or trophy species. And then it goes on to list trophy species as elk and sheep. And so go ahead.
It's absurd.
Yeah, insane. So naturally, a couple of the good conservation organizations here jump on it. Like Wild Sheep Society here in BC, they're like on it like you wouldn't believe. They fire up this campaign. They call it their Act Now campaign. Still running today. And they start rallying the troops, and it starts picking up a momentum in the hunting community, right? Like all of the hardcore hunters have signed it, and now we're starting to pick up the casual guys, right? It's picking up speed. And then it hits like this wall, and it hits this wall of the like, I don't know how to say it without offending people, but it hits this wall of people that are concerned with rallying the troops for some reason, right? Mm-hmm. And it turns into this thing where between the conservation organizations, now there's infighting, where Wild Sheep Society is like, sign this thing. Let's go. Let's fight for our rights to hunt. Let's make sure that our government knows that we want wildlife managed with science. We don't want it managed with Miley Cyrus's freaking whatever, right? And these other conservation organizations are going, well, no, sign this one. Don't sign that one, sign this one. And then this one comes out and says, yeah, okay, where it might be too soon. And this other one goes, sign this one. And it's like, we already have one rolling. Why aren't we all just focusing our energy and having a united front on this thing? Like there's 100,000 resident hunters here in BC, and like this thing lost steam at like 5,000 and is finally picked back up to like 12,000, but still it's that whole thing. Like, why not all focus on the same goal?
Yeah. Stop the infighting.
Right.
Like, you don't need to eat our own.
No.
You know, like they don't do that. Why are we? You know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing about the anti-hunting. I don't know if you even call it a lobby or what it is, but they're organized and they agree on everything. Like, hey, let's start a petition to ban wolf hunting, and it gets 1 million signatures because there's no discussion. It's like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, it's insane, man.
It's tough.
Completely.
It's tough. Anyway, we can go down that road forever, but it is so great, man, to hear how much Black Rifle is doing in that conservation space and how it sounds like they're stepping it up even.
Yeah, for sure. And you'll start to see and hear a lot more in the upcoming months and all that good stuff. So
that's awesome.
That's exciting times, man.
So we haven't really got into too much of your story. I do want to talk about kind of your, I don't know, is this like your passion project, the Hunter Recruitment Project?
So the Hunter Recruitment Project, Jamie and I kind of came up with that idea. He's like, they had just gotten a new farm, like 2,500 acres in Americus, Georgia. And he's like, I'd love to take some people hunting at the new place. And so I was like, yeah, it's great. Like, call it the Hunter Recruitment Project. And he's like, yeah. And then like, we just kind of like a couple weeks before we did 2 events one in December, one in January. And we took, I think, a total of like 18 people that had never been hunting, taught them how to unbox a rifle, how to mount a scope, how to zero the rifle, how to, where to shoot a deer, where the vitals were, process deer, send everybody home with a Yeti soft-sided cooler full of venison that was processed, by a professional butcher. Huge social component to it. Taught them about wind and stand placement. And Tier Simac, who's in charge of the charitable arm for Black Rifle, did like a field medic course. Taught everyone backcountry first aid. And then Mike Hearn did a little demonstration course on Eastman's Tag Hub app, which, applying for tags and stuff. And then he also did one on public land access, and how to use, base maps and all that good stuff. And just had a blast. I think 18 people either shot 1 or 2 deer. We had people shooting does. And then it was a blast, man. And then in maybe a month and a half, we took a bunch of people that had never been fly fishing on the Nantahala in North Carolina. And that was a big success. And then we have a work camp coming up in June or July, June, where we're going to take people and teach them how to drive a tractor and plow a food plot and plant a food plot and how to hang a stand, where we hang stands, why we put stands where we put them, fill, feeders and supplementation, with, protein supplementation, all that stuff. We're going to shoot some bows, shoot some rifles, just have a big time. So, it's been tremendously successful. We've got, I think about a dozen companies that have come on board to support it, and it's fully funded for the rest of the year. And
it's awesome.
Just awesome project, to be a part of. And, like Jamie and I combined, we've probably shot in our 50 years of hunting experience, over 50 years combined, the two of us, hundreds of deer. And it's like, it means way more to me to watch someone shoot a deer that's never done it before than it would be for me to shoot another doe. You know what I mean? Like, all right, whatever, I don't care. But it's cool because, you can I can't guarantee that they're going to like it, but I can guarantee them success. And if you can succeed at something early or have a taste of success, duplicating and replicating that success is pretty easy. It's the greatest motivator in the world is a taste of success.
Oh yeah.
So that's kind of the plan, and that's what we've been doing. And I think we're going to have 4 hunts this fall. And it helps us too with our deer, managing our deer herd. So like, you want your doe to buck to doe ratio 1 to 1.5, so it just makes our lives a little bit easier. And this last year we did it in the late season. This year we'll do it in the early season, and we'll get people down there and we'll just get a bunch of our does out of the way really, really early.
Cool.
Yeah. So it's awesome, man. Like Black Rifle's the title sponsor, tremendously excited about it. And it's going to be a fun year.
Right on, man. That's so cool. It's rad to hear about all the cool different projects you're working on and how much you're able to intertwine your career with stuff you're passionate about and doing stuff that benefits veterans and hunting, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, for sure, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and leave us a review. If you want to support the podcast, please check out the gear on our website at wildernesslocals.net.